Friends, Namaste and welcome to the Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga, which we beam on every Sunday at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. As you know, we have today in the 99th episode after we started this program on Ram Navami Day on the 2nd of April during the pandemic. And earlier on, we had daily shows, and then now we have subsequently shifted to the Sunday model. And we also have our regular Saturday shows of earlier 21 episodes of Legal Words of Wisdom, Nyay Gyan Ganga. And since yesterday, we have started the Economic Words of Wisdom, that is on Saturdays, Economic Words of Wisdom, Arth Gyan Ganga. So our two shows continue on Saturday and Sunday, Words of Wisdom. Today we have a very important discussion. Today we have two topics which we will be discussing. The first topic is, are Indian foreign policy makers in a dilemma? And the second topic is implication of VK Sasikala quitting politics in Tamil Nadu. For the second topic, we have with us Miss V.S. Chandralekha, retired IAS officer. She is the president of Virat Hindustan Sangam Tamil Nadu unit, and she has been in the IAS, perhaps the first women collector to be posted outside the city of Chennai, and she had various posts in the various the administration of Tamil Nadu. So we welcome V.S. Chandralekha to our show. As usual, we have Dr. Subramanian Swamy, our patron founder of Virat Hindustan Sangam. So we welcome you all to our show. I have with me my co-host Ramesh Swamy and Professor Arvind Chaturvedi, and also our technical team to back us is led by Ashish Shetty, Vishal Mehta, Ishwar Iyer, Tejas, Rakesh Gadgi, and Swaminathan. So we thank all our viewers across the globe for joining us on Saturdays and Sundays. So with this, I would now request Dr. Swamy to first take the topic of the implication of VK Sasikala quitting politics in Tamil Nadu, and then we will have a discussion on this issue with Madam Chandralekha. Over to Dr. Swamy.
Thank you very much, Jagdish. This is a very important topic because there are three states which have total Lok Sabha, four states which have a total of Lok Sabha constituencies exceeding 40. I mean, in the case of Tamil Nadu, it is 39 plus Pondicherry will be 40. In the case of Bengal, I think it's 42, and in the case of Maharashtra, it's 48. When Andhra was undivided, also it had crossed 40, but now they have split into two. So these three states are very important in terms of the number of Lok Sabha MPs they sent to Delhi. Tamil Nadu, with its 40 seats, can make a difference as to who will form the government. It happened with Vajpayee's government in 1998 and 1999, when the DMK earlier on in 1998 was the AIADMK which made the difference, and of a minority and majority, and then again in 1999 when the DMK made the difference. So these parties can play a major role. The second thing I've noticed in Tamil Nadu is that generally speaking, there may be a year or two exceptions, especially when MGR was there, a party which gets elected doesn't repeat its performance in the next elections. It may come in the following elections. And so they turn by turn, DMK, ADMK, DMK, ADMK. And this time that is unlikely to be repeated. Partly because the DMK doesn't have their master campaigner, Karunanidhi. He's passed away, and his son has not yet filled the gap. And furthermore, the second son of Karunanidhi is now a rebel. To my knowledge, I don't know whether they're or not, but is a rebel. And moreover, the Congress is much weaker than it was in the past in contributing to the coalition's victory. And most of all, Anna DMK has been weakened not only because of Jayalalitha going away, but the great Tevar base is now no more committed to AIADMK. It was supposed to be delivered by Sasikala, but Sasikala decided not to participate in any politics just now. So we have got a person who has, as an officer, as a politician, she has participated in elections. She knows what it's all about in Tamil Nadu. And so we decided to request Ms. Chandralekha to come and give us not only what she thinks about the Tamil Nadu elections and where it is headed, but also because of her personal knowledge of Ms. Sasikala, who actually served as an employee in the household of Ms. Chandralekha when she was a collector. So she knows her from her very, very original old background. And so she may be able to tell us what is in the mind of Sasikala. I may say that the BJP also consulted Chandralekha. We haven't made it public, but they didn't take her advice, and therefore they've come to grief. So let me hand over the mic, so to speak, to Chandralekha and ask her to enlighten us as to what is happening in Tamil Nadu and what is the future of Sasikala.
Namaste. Dr. Swamy, as you very rightly put it across, the first time ADMK won twice in Jayalalitha's captainship, and this is the third election they will be facing. But after her demise, when they faced the parliament elections, their vote share had fallen drastically, ADMK's vote share. And except one seat, they couldn't win any other seat in the parliament election. And so Sasikala has become a very crucial factor in this election. So when she served her term and came out of the jail, and when she came to Chennai, there was a lot of expectation whether what she's going to say. But when she kept quiet for about more than 20 days, because she came on the 7th of February to Chennai, and till March 1st or 2nd, she didn't make her announcement. But right from the beginning, she was insisting on when she came out and then to offer floral offering for Jayalalitha on her birthday. She made it very clear that she wanted the ADMK to be united, and they should together they should defeat DMK. So it is in that context now she has decided not to fight the elections, because if she had decided to fight the election, it would have adversely affected ADMK. Not that she would have won, but she could have been a spoiled sport. Because what happened in 2019, there were 22 assembly by-elections. In that, AIADMK, floated by her nephew TTV Dhinakaran, they scored around 7.8% of the votes they got. And they also contested all the 39 Lok Sabha seats. In that also, they were able to get 5.6% of the votes. But in the assembly segments of the parliamentary constituency, at least in 70 to 80% of the assembly segments, 70 to 80 seats, assembly segments of the parliamentary constituency, they scored 13% of the votes. So that could have made a very major difference to ADMK. As it is, ADMK's vote share is shrinking. This would have adversely impacted them. So I think she has made a great sacrifice by stepping down and not to contest the elections. And this is a big boost to ADMK. And I appreciate the fact that she had done this, because she doesn't want to be known as the person who spoiled the chances of ADMK and brought DMK to power.
Well, who do you think is going to be the winner? Any guesses? I'm not saying that we'll hold you to it or we'll take a bet on it, but would you give us an idea as to What are the strengths of the two different parties, and which you think has an edge?
I think now with this petrol prices, that is going to have a negative impact, and a decision of the center to Devendra Kula Velalars, who are led by Krishna Swamy, to bring them as backward class and give them the title of Devendra Kula Velalar, as annoyed the other Velalar communities. They don't want them to be called as Velalars. So there is a disaffection because of that, because there are Pillamars in the southern belt, and then other, even Palaniswamy's Kungu Velalars, they are all called Velalars. So they don't want them to be called, bracketed as Velalars. That is one factor. And then this 10% reservation for the 1 years within the backward quota, that is also is annoying the other communities. So these could be adverse issues that could be affecting the ADMK.
Okay, so the ADMK is starting with a handicap. That's what you are really.
Yeah, they are starting with a handicap.
Now, do you think that? Yeah, go on. It is possible.
No, it is now this Nam Tamil Kachi is standing alone. Kamala Hassan is coming in. So how the votes are going to split amongst themselves, that is also to be seen. As the campaign goes on, we will get to know.
But has Congress teamed up with the DMK?
Yes,
or they're still fighting?
All of that 25 seats today, and
Okay,
one parliament
accept.
Kanyakumari.
Kanya, okay, so accepted. Now, what do you think about the future action of Sasikala?
She's now 66 and she's got health issues, and I think she will quietly fade away. I don't think she will participate in active politics. Anyway, for another 6 years, she can't contest any elections. So even to hold on to the party, I don't think she wants to. Because I spoke to her, and she very clearly told me that I never wanted to be in active politics. If I'd wanted, when Jayalalitha was alive, I could have I could have got a party position or a position in the government, which I never aspired for. My only goal was to look after her. So that role is now over. She's no longer there, so I'm not interested. And that is true, because she has always rooted for Jayalalitha. Even when the ED had kept her in the jail for 1 year, even at that time, though Jayalalitha issued a statement against her, she never went against her. 3-4 times Jayalalitha had sent her out of her post-garden house, but it is Jayalalitha who asked her to come back also. But at no point of time she had ever spoken against her, and she had stood by her. Whatever people might say, but Sasikala had been very, very loyal to Jayalalitha.
Okay, other people want to ask questions. Over to you, Ramesh.
Yeah, ma'am, from an ADMK chances, the general ground is that in Corona the government has done a good job, so there is no impact for that. So whatever is current. So let me.
I agree with you, Ramesh. Actually, the Edapadi government has done a very good job. Not only the Corona was handled very well, the situation, and also during the floods. And he did a very good job. He went from place to place, the chief minister, and then he ensured that timely help was given to all those who were affected. So there is not much of an anti-incumbency in that sense. But I feel some of these decisions, they are saying that may impact.
Okay. The second question is, now that Sasikala has decided not to be in active politics and she has called for all ADMK, including probably AIAMK, to work to defeat ADMK. She never said that join ADMK yet. So instead of openly saying it, is that what she's alluding to? Saying that, let's just get together and defeat DMK?
Yeah, she has been very clear that DMK should be defeated.
Yeah.
And AIADMK should be united, because she is not a member of the AIADMK.
Oh, okay.
Technically, the general secretary of the AIADMK.
AIADMK, okay.
The court is still pending in the court. She is not a member of the AIADMK.
Okay. But my guess was this TTV Dhinakaran started AIAMK for essentially when she was in jail and for Sasikala kind of a background, right? Otherwise, on his own, he couldn't stand, correct? I mean, that was the premise.
No, it was his own decision. I don't think
Okay.
he had her blessings.
Okay. Arvind, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a similar question to you. What you answered about TTV Dhinakaran, Amma Makkal Kadagam. You see, when he had fought the by-election for assembly, he had got tremendous support from people, and he defeated Anna DMK also. Now the question is, will he damage Anna DMK if he stands separately, and how many seats he is about to contest? Number one. Number two, there is a big factor about Kamala Hassan, and Kamala Hassan is also vying for the secular votes. So whether Kamala Hassan is going to damage DMK, so are they going to be counterproductive to each other?
That's what Kamala Hassan can damage DMK's vote bank also. And as far as TTV's party is concerned, till now he has not announced. He has said, of course, we are talking to some parties and he will be announcing his alliance, etc. So far, he has not made any statement on that, though he has received applications from candidates. I don't think he can have a major impact because the community was all for Sasikala. He got all those votes because of Sasikala, because Sasikala was seen as a friend of Jayalalitha who took care of Jayalalitha. But TTV was thrown out by Jayalalitha during her time, and he came back only after Jayalalitha's demise into the scene. Therefore, I don't think the votes he will be able to split the votes. Without Sasikala's support, I don't think he can.
Chandralekha ji, I have a question for you. We are discussing Vikesh Sasikala quitting politics. I would like to say that assuming Anna DMK does badly in the polls, and
Yes.
And then the only person in the coming years who can bring all the factions together would be Sasikala, and then fight against the DMK, ruling DMK. If it comes to power, I hope it doesn't come to power, but if it comes to power, then do you still rule out that Sasikala will not come and join active politics for the need of the AIADMK?
I think if God forbid that ADMK loses, I want ADMK to win and DMK to be defeated. But no, if Sasikala comes in also, the party will split.
A follow-up question to what Jagdish asked.
Even now, when the BJP was insisting that they should bring in Sasikala into the ADMK fold, the ADMK leaders were firm against her induction. And because quite a few of the ministers were against that. And they said then they will split. So I think it will lead to a split in the party.
Oh, so the BJP did want Sasikala to...
Why, Mr. Gurumurthy, our self-styled in fact, he made a very unsavory comment. He said, when the house is ablaze, you can use the sewage water also to douse the fire. So no harm in bringing Sasikala in. And he was advising the BJP that they should. And many BJP leaders wanted her to come in support of ADMK, and then the ADMK should bring her in. But then the ADMK leaders stood firm. Both OPS and Edapadi Palaniswamy, they didn't want her.
Maybe Gurumurthy will supply the sewage water.
But Gurumurthy wants to poke his nose into everything.
I didn't want to bring him up. Why unnecessarily go spoil a very good topic with some useless characters. But anyway, ma'am, coming to re-entry, right? I want to follow up on what Jagdish asked you. So Jayalalitha also allegedly had quit politics in '89. I mean, she had written a letter and she had quit and she came back. So is that possible? It's just an extension of what Jagdish ji asked, because if there is a debacle, I'm assuming that there's a debacle, and then the ADMK still needs a leadership, and I'm not so sure as to if Sasikala is a great leader, because we have not seen that part of her yet. So is there a possibility that way?
I can't say.
Okay. So I have the last question because
In my view, she will not come. In my view, she will not enter. And if she does, then the party will split.
okay. See, the
I
last
have
part
just
is
one small question
go ahead.
about the BJP share in Anna DMK. BJP has got 20 seats, 20
But I
assembly
don't know
seats.
the candidates.
Sorry?
But 20 seats they have got, but whether they have winnable candidates, I don't know.
No, so that is my question. No, you know Tamil Nadu politics much better. So whether BJP has any scope of even getting
Exactly.
past zero? I mean, will they succeed even winning one seat?
Perception of
See,
BJP essentially in Tamil Nadu. What is
BJP
BJP's?
will totally depend on the ADMK cadres to work for them. But we have faced elections with ADMK when Dr. Swamy stood for the parliament elections. What will happen is all the top leaders in that segment, they will all go and work for another AIADMK candidate and not for the alliance candidate. So that way BJP will have a lot of problems.
And also the
They
20
will have to mostly depend on their own workers, BJP workers, to fight the elections. And in my opinion, BJP's workers have no basic knowledge of handling an election. That is my experience.
Incidentally, despite the ADMK doing that in Madurai, I still won on that particular occasion.
Yeah, that's because whatever ADMK cadres were given to us, since I had been a collector there and I had a good rapport with them, so I could manage with them. And of course, Dr. Swamy's charisma was always there. So that was easy. But that's an exception. That can't happen in the case of other candidates.
But when even the 20 seats that have been allocated, these are pretty much the seats that even ADMK has no chance of winning. Is that or majority of them even ADMK has no chance?
No, I will not say that. ADMK has got its own committed votes everywhere.
Okay.
So,
but would those ADMK votes to these 20
is given is not yet known.
Okay.
Would you advise the BJP to stand alone and fight all the 234 seats?
I think that is the only way then they can, take roots in Tamil Nadu. Otherwise, doing piggyback on one of these parties will not allow BJP to grow.
Right.
Dr. Swamy had always been advising
by-election in Kanyakumari. And Pon Radhakrishnan has been declared as a candidate who has been MP from there earlier also. So do you think BJP has chance on April 6th Lok Sabha
I think they have sympathy vote for the Congress candidate because the boy who's going to, I think he's the son of Vasant Kumar who died, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. Kumari Anandan was the original candidate, and then it went to us on one occasion when he was no more, or he something had happened to him, and then after that, now in the last election, he lost badly, our candidate, and this time, whether as she says, there is the fact that the father was very active in social life and in magazines and films and so on. So, and he was a very gregarious man, got along with people. So maybe his son might cash in. We can't say unless there's a wave in favor of the ADMK BJP alliance. I think there's going to be a tough fight there.
Unfortunately, the entire media in Tamil Nadu, whether print media or visual media, they're all against BJP. Anything that happens, BJP is responsible. According to them, in all TV programs, they say BJP will finish off ADMK. Their role is only to see that they decimate ADMK completely. And so that later it is a fight between BJP versus DMK.
Yeah.
Ma'am, one other part. What would work for BJP would Hindutva or nationalism work for BJP in Tamil Nadu, message wise?
Hindutva will work. Tamil Nadu has contributed the maximum for Ram Janmabhoomi temple.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. Everybody, I also contributed. So the people from the RSS who came to pick up the funds from me, they told me even beggars contributed very happily. They on their own they came and they gave 10 rupees, 15 rupees. It's a great thing. And Tamil Nadu has contributed the maximum. You know that?
Yeah.
So
And the temples are full whenever you go in Tamil Nadu. In all the temples,
for Ram Temple, Tamil Nadu has contributed so much. So
Yeah,
that means undercurrent. This has to be exploited.
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
There is one question from the audience saying that, I mean, they want to know, this is from the north, they want to understand what this Vellalar community issue is. So a little bit, just in a few lines, explain what the issue is.
Vellalars actually means farmers, those who are doing agricultural activity. So there are many communities which call themselves as Vellalar. If you go to Tirunelveli, you have the Saiva Pillamars, who are also called Saiva Pillamars, Selva Vellalars. All the Kongu belt, there is a western Tamil Nadu, to the community to which Edapadi Painisamy belongs and all that. They are also called Vellalars. Even the Mukkalathos will call themselves as Vellalars because basically they are all farming community.
Okay.
So they don't, and they feel that if this Devendra Kula, earlier there were a few subsects in them like Pallar, Pannade, all the Kaladi and all that. Now if they all want to group together, now they want to call themselves as Devendra Kula Velalar. So they are objecting to the term Velalar. Because later what will happen is, they have fear that, love jihad and all that, then there could be intermarriages between the community.
Okay.
And because they will say they are Velalars, they will not say they will Devendra Kula Velalar. So they can get married to any other Velalars. They don't like that.
Last question, slightly digressing away from the topic.
They wanted me to take it up with Dr. Swamy, but they came very, very late. And this idea, again, for your information, was given by Mr. Gurumurthy.
All garbage ideas. That's
he influenced the center that if you do this, we will get all this Devendra Kula Velalar votes too.
And Modi said Devendra and Narendra.
You asked me for how BJP can grow in Tamil Nadu. The one and the only advice I would like to give them is just keep away from Gurumurthy and don't take any of his advice, or take his advice and act contrary to that.
Do the opposite.
Do the opposite. Yeah, pick his brain and do the opposite.
Slightly digressing away from the topic, sorry Jagdish. What would, I mean, theoretically, Rajinikanth had any impact if he had continued to stay on?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, because he could have had an impact about 20 years ago. But he was doing this flip-flop every time, saying, I'll come in, I will not come, I will come, I will not come. So he had lost his credibility.
Yeah, because Dr. Swamy categorically stated 2 years ago he will not come. So
see, I think even he was never keen to come. But he was again being pressurized by Mr. Gurumurthy.
Yes, correct.
For all the bad things that are happening in Tamil Nadu, the one person responsible is Gurumurthy.
That's why Parmachari told him to stay out of politics.
No, he's
not only politics, he should stay out of everything. Because he wants to do this arbitration work. If there are two beauty parlors also, he will come and arbitrate there. Totally unconnected field also, he will poke his nose.
Yeah. Dr. Swamy, this is more of a poser to you, because T.R. Balu has now started saying that Ram Setu has to be broken again. I mean, he's now started something. I guess he's not learnt his lesson.
Well, thanks. I'll get another opportunity to dominate the headlines and put Modi in a lot of difficulty.
Okay, Jagdish, you can switch to the next one.
Thank you, Chandralekha, for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful inputs on Tamil Nadu and Sasikala's impact of implications on quitting politics. Now we will be having a detailed discussion with Dr. Swamy's assessment on are the people who are handling the foreign affairs in a dilemma, are India's foreign policy makers in a dilemma. So I would request Dr. Swamy to initiate his thoughts on this issue, and then we'll have a discussion. Thank you, Chandralekha.
Thank you, Jagdish.
Now, thanks very much, Jagdish. Let me pose the question. First of all, let us understand that foreign policy is based on intentions of countries, whereas defense policy is based on the capacity of different countries. If India and China are good friends, but their capacity is bigger than ours, then we have to have a defense policy to try and equalize that. But foreign policy is based on friendship, and therefore we have to make this clear distinction. Now, the core dilemma today is that China has, despite 18 meetings of one-to-one meetings of the Prime Minister and all the hoo-ha and all that went on, celebrating the friendship with China, has transgressed the mutually agreed temporary line called the LAC, line of actual control, which was drawn in 1993 because of the fact that the solution must begin with the status quo. So it was a status quo line. And that, but negotiations went on, and I think most of the bureaucrats are only interested in more and more negotiations so they can travel and have nice Chinese food, I think. But we never got around anywhere near even proposing some, solutions. And so that LAC is there. The whole Aksai chain, which we claim as ours, is entirely in the Chinese control. It's on the other side of the LAC. And Ladakh is with us. It is almost like 50-50 we have done. Now, the question then becomes, are you going to make an alliance to get the Chinese out of our territory, which is on this side of the LAC? So there is only one alternative, and that is Quad. That is, 4 nations have come together during Mr. Trump's period: United States, India, Australia, Japan. So these 4 states are really basically, except that the United States is a global player, the 3 states are all in the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean area. So the Pacific Ocean was decided as to be renamed as Indo-Pacific Ocean. And a Quad was for the security of that. Do you want to be a part of that? Or you want to be a part of the Russian, Chinese, Indian alliance? Now, India cannot be an equal partner in that alliance, just as Russia can't be an equal partner. Russia is totally dependent on money from China, and the Chinese have thoroughly penetrated everything. India is, still living in the past. This present Russia is not Soviet Union. It is now a highly truncated part of Soviet Union, and they don't even practice communism, so even that is not similar. And so our continued adherence to a past memory of friendship with Russia is propelling many of our foreign policy analysts to say we must be good friends with Russia. And we went and bought one of Russia's advanced equipment, and this is called the S-400, which is attached to an aeroplane, and then it does surface-to-air missile and surface-to-surface missiles and all that. So that machine we went and bought, and the Americans, with whom we had already joined in the Quad, they protested and said that this S-400 is got Chinese electronics, and so we cannot give you advanced weapon systems. For instance, the F-35, the most beautiful plane ever devised for the Air Force of any country, the Americans have done it. They were ready to give that to us, but they didn't agree. They said, first you tell us, are you going to have S-400? S-400 has not been delivered to India. Of the 100,000 crores we agreed to pay, we have not. We have to pay 60,000 crores more, but we have paid 40,000. And the Russians have delayed the delivery because they had to give priority after they were promising us. They had to give priority to the Chinese demand, and so S-400 has been sold to China. So China and we having the same weapon system is very dangerous in any. So are we going to do? Now, I was surprised that we agreed, as the foreign minister has declared, thanking Russia for mediating the relations between India and China on the question of what is they call as disengagement. Disengagement means you no more pick up a rifle and aim at each other. It doesn't mean vacation. It doesn't mean withdrawal. And India had aggressed in only one part, and that too much later. That is, we in the Pangong Lake area, we crossed the LAC and occupied a hill which was overlooking the cantonment where China was below the hills in Pangong Lake area. So whereas the Chinese had been in a number of areas, they'd been there even during the UPA period. But that is not the fault of the UPA, it's the fault of ours. Why we didn't make a public statement that the Chinese have come and occupied Depsang in 2013? You could have made it in 2014 or 2015, but we didn't. Instead, we had these 18 meetings in high voltage meetings for media, from the media point of view. So I'm saying we have to make a choice. Are we going to be with the United States and its allies, or we are going to be with Russia and China? Or option which is possible after some time, that is, you stand alone, you become a pole. You say, no, I'm a big country and I can be a power myself, and we'll look after all our neighborhoods and etc. But I am at the moment saying that the country's moved, and almost unanimously we must have some alliance. And I'm surprised that we have opted for increasingly the involvement of the Russian, Chinese, Indian get together. We want to be with both. That's the old hangover from non-alignment days. But the Americans have made it clear: either you're with us or you're with them. And if you take S-400, then we are not going to give you anything worthwhile. Other things in commercial terms we sell to every country, we'll sell it to you also. So we have this dilemma which has to be resolved, and that resolution has to take place on a practical basis. What is the moment of truth we are in? That the Chinese have more or less captured the Pakistani thinking. They are there all over. They are more well regarded in Pakistan than the Americans are. Americans always control Pakistan through the military, but the military itself is now beginning to respond to the Chinese as the jihadi elements in the military starts increasing in Pakistan. And it was the Chinese who told the Pakistanis that you get India also into like we have got them into one of these agreements, you also get into a status quo agreement. So the Pakistanis declared no more firing on the LSC. This is not the first time that has happened. They will break it again. 2003 they did it with Musharraf, it was broken again. And 2012, same thing, broken again. So there is no sanctity of an alliance with Pakistan till this Kashmir issue is resolved to our satisfaction, which means the whole of POK has to come back to India. So I am surprised that our government is hesitating on this issue. And Biden originally was not anti-Chinese, and everybody thought he'll have better relations with China. But after being briefed by both Defense Department and the CIA, Biden has undergone a change, I can see from his language and his behavior. Now they have said to India, we are going to have a Quad meeting very soon, perhaps in end of March or maybe April, and you have to tell us, are you with us or you are with them? Because Biden has said Quad is targeted against China. Now we want to say no, Quad is another society, it's the Indian National Center. We can be here, we can also be in Imperial Hotel, this kind of thing. They have Gymkhana Club or something. So they being on both sides, we are going to be ending up like the bat, the famous bat, in Tamil we call it Vawal, ending up with both the animals and the birds hating it. So I would say that this dilemma needs to be resolved, and I would say that we must give priority to liberating our territory. Otherwise, we will never be. We will get the 1962 double established, and nobody will consider us as a work power. And then the dismemberment of India will start. The Nepalis are already saying Uttarakhand is ours. Then soon, and now Bhutan has completely gone over to the Chinese side. Whatever we fought for, everything is gone. Doklam is gone. So, which is not being reported in our media. Media is very compliant and they don't report these things. Same thing with now Burma has gone to China, and that is next door to us in Arunachal. Arunachal, the Chinese have already come and built a cantonment, or what they call as a village in northeast Arunachal. And our bureaucrats misbehave with the Sri Lankans. So Sri Lankans, find that they have lots of loans to repay, which the previous government had accumulated to the Chinese, and we are not helping them, and we are talking down to them. So like this, you see, we are in a completely scatterbrained situation. I would say to the government, please decide, do you want to be part of Quad or you want to be part of the Russian-Chinese Indian relationship? Russians are junior partner of China. There's no, internationally it has been accepted as a proposition. They can't do anything against China. And we will also have to become a junior partner. But they're sitting on our head and we are not objecting. And I don't think it's in the national interest to go in the present situation with Russia and China. And we must be fully with Quad and get all the best weaponry. They say that the Chinese budget today and the Chinese military is 5 times or 6 times as big as India. Of course, they got a bigger area to cover, but even then, they have shown what they can do with artificial intelligence. They have knocked off the power supply in Bombay. They have got all kinds of, and now we have invited Huawei to come into India. Today there's a news item that Huawei has taken away so many crores from Airtel. So I think this public will have to assert, because the government appears to be in utter confusion. They want to be on both sides. Americans have made it clear, no, if you're with Quad, you are anti-Chinese. And the Chinese have said, if you are with us, then you have to be anti-American. And in that context, if that is the choice, we should join with Quad, modernize our weaponry, liberate our territory, and then we can see whether we can then have on an equal footing as one of the triangle, United States, China, and India, as to work in a deal with China on economic matters. So this is my basic formulation. We are in a very tragic state today, utter confusion, no clarity. The Chinese are in occupation of our land and we are not willing to admit it. The media hype is such that we are not willing to admit it. Every little soldier taking one step back is called as a great victory, and people are in total, complete darkness. I think the people must know the truth.
So, Dr. Swamy, I have a question here. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to create even a local policy, if you want to have foreign policy or anything, why have we consistently distanced ourselves from our neighbors? Typically, if you take Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, leave the rogue state Pakistan aside. It consistently we have moved away from them rather than bringing them closer to us. This is what has happened in the past 4 or 5 years. It is if you want to counter China, at least you should have support of these close neighbors of yours, right? To some extent, so that you can have some kind of a might, not necessarily military. We don't need their military help, but from a psychological standpoint, at least political standpoint, we have distanced ourselves because China has gone to Sri Lanka, they've gone to Myanmar recently. The coup, whatever that has happened. You take Bangladesh, you take Bhutan. It is so the dilemma is not only whether we are confused over how to handle China, we are also confused about handling small neighbors of ours, including Maldives.
Yeah, that's right. Maldives has gone with America now.
Correct.
Now,
what can change this mindset? What can we do to change this mindset?
See, there are two most important posts in terms of preparing strategy. One is the Minister of Foreign Relations or Minister of External Affairs, and the other is National Security Advisor, which is also a cabinet rank position. Both of them are with bureaucrats who know how to only, butter the boss and tell him what he wants to hear, and don't do any in-depth planning or produce position papers or hold seminars where they call experts and then subject themselves to questioning. None of this happens. And that's bigger. I'm not, ability-wise, I'm not, doubting the ability and the IQ level of both Jaishankar and Doval. But their upbringing has been bureaucratic. And they can't think of the big picture. Now, why is it that they can't formulate to the Prime Minister that, listen, we have in our national interest, we have come to the conclusion we have to be the United States, and not with these two. Then there is another aspect to see, which unfortunately corruption has an effect. If you have taken money or cut kickback, then or you have an account in, say, Macau, then I think many people will not speak up. So the idea that this entire governmental system, the people who are holding important positions will come and speak up, you can't expect because of this reason. I'm sorry about this, but I have come to the conclusion that why is it that they don't propose? You can't blame the Prime Minister in the sense he's not been brought up on foreign policy. Foreign policy is a very sophisticated thing. National security policy is also a very sophisticated subject. You have trained, and all Prime Ministers always have people in those positions who can produce papers, interact with experts, and then come back and give 5 points, 10 points to the President of the United States, for example, in America. The same way they should be doing, give 5 points instead of giving 1. So therefore, I think that's where we are suffering. And I think we need now to go back to the days when politicians dealt with it. I know that in the case of China in 1962, the people who were warning Nehru were all politicians. Moraji Desai and these Nath Pai was an MP, and Mahavir Tyagi, all the Acharya Kripalani. They're all warning all the time that you've got your eyes shut to what the Chinese are doing. And then there was a record. Here today, there's no record, because if anyone opens his mouth, which the official media puts out, then targeted, and they're sought to be rebushed. I'm the only one who's fortunate because of this VHS IT cell. They have butchered them all, and so they are now licking their wounds and hiding. But by and large, this is the problem. There is no debate. No debate in the country. The moment you take a contrary view, you are anti-national, you are against the Prime Minister, you want to topple him, this kind of thing comes.
A wounded tiger is dangerous, Dr. Swamy. But anyway, maybe a wounded animal, that's why you chose the word animal instead of a tiger. Before I hand it over to Arvind, I cannot fail to notice that you have Muthuramalika Thevar's photo on your left-hand side. And I mean, given that, I think, ma'am, you could also say, if we, I mean, the renaming of Madurai Airport, could Muthuramalika Thevar, I think it could have been done even in the last month or two before
It is
the
being cleared by the government. It's the Tamil Nadu government which is not giving okay. The central government has cleared it many times. All my petition.
Yeah, so ma'am, you want to say something? Sorry, go ahead.
It will be a great step. Yes.
They could have done it before the MCC came to a model code of conduct came in paper.
With the people of Tamil Nadu, yes, it will have a very great impact, positive
but
impact.
Unfortunately too late because the MCC in place. So
Yeah.
they thought about it. This Vellalar thing, everything could have been handled by just that one simple act of renaming the airport could have had a huge impact as well. So I mean, I just couldn't help notice because you had the picture of Muthuramalika Thevar on your left-hand side. So I just thought I'll mention that.
He was a great fighter for freedom. We shall never forget him.
Right.
And it took me, I mean, Mopanar told me I am not fit to fight with these northerners to put this statue in parliament. When I raised it, Gujarat asked me, he was prime minister, hi, Muthuramalika, I've never heard of him. Is he a relative that you're pushing so hard? I said, I can't be his relative in normal circumstances. But yes, I admire him. The British would not have left Tamil Nadu but for Muthuramalika Thevar defeating the Raja of Ramnad. And until then, the British had faith that the Tamilians, like cows, will come or goats will come and stand behind the British Governor General. In fact, the DK chief, E.V. Ramanaswamy Naikar, he on 15th August he went to the governor's house, the British Governor General's house, as it's called, and pleaded, please go away from all parts of India, but not Tamil Nadu. That is the psychology we have in Tamil Nadu.
Jagdish ji, you had a question? Or Arvind, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I have a question. When it comes to the external affairs, normally, as Ramesh had just asked about the neighbors, India is worried about the neighbors. India is worried about the world powers, whether it is US or China or Japan or Russia. India, I think in my concern, India should also have good relationships with OPEC countries. The most affecting economic variable is the oil prices. Dharmendra Pradhan, the Minister for Petroleum, few days back made a pathetic statement. He said OPEC countries are not listening to us. They reduce the production, they've increased the price, and India is affected, and we can't do anything. Now, India is such a country, and the Minister of Petroleum says that we cannot do anything because OPEC countries do not have a good relation. Now, what about the importance of India and the OPEC relations? This is also one of the most important.
I'm asking you, why don't you use substitutes for petrol? Hydrogen fuel cells, electric cars.
Has actually said, look for the cheaper oil.
No, no, there's no cheaper oil. I mean, the question is, the Americans are selling you almost at the same price, and and the transportation cost is terrible. It's much larger. And what more could we do to befriend these Arab countries, these OPEC countries? We have been bending backwards to see that we don't harm the Hamas group in a UN vote. We didn't side with Israel in that. The most loyal friend is Israel. We did not. And as far as this UAE is concerned, that princess came, escaped, took a boat, came to the shores of Bombay, and our military jumped on the boat, gave her a tranquilizer, and then sent her back. But I can't understand what more greater favor you can do. And I'm not very happy with that favor. That is a violation of human rights. But you did that, and what do you get? Petrol prices rising, squeezing you. But don't blame only the petrol price rising. Your taxes are also rising. Reduce that. Why can't you reduce that? You should not have petrol prices in the present oil prices level. You should not have more than 40 rupees per liter for petrol. So I've given you a cure without worrying about what the Arabs are going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Swamy, the future is definitely other fuels. Even in the US, the hydrogen fuel cell is picking up in rapid pace. Electric cars are picking up. I mean, the oil companies are definitely threatened. I'm not saying it'll happen tomorrow, next year, or maybe next decade or so. India needs to look at hydrogen fuel, and world over, the countries are looking for green ways of making hydrogen fuel. And what is the only majority method being used? Solar. Again, India has got it a very good advantage to make hydrogen fuel cells. We don't have a policy towards that. We should think like that. Just move on. The future is hydrogen fuel cells. India has enough opportunity to do that easily at a much lower cost compared to the Western countries, where they're struggling to make these hydrogen because it requires a lot of energy to convert water into hydrogen. But India has all the facility that it has to do this easily. But anyway, just to go moving away. Dr. on the China policy, there's one question from the audience. I know you've answered this before, but anyway, I'll ask it. Should we denounce one China policy and accept Taiwan as a country? You've answered this, but
I'm saying first you get them out of your land before taking on that.
Okay.
As a liberate Tibet. I mean, is it a joke? First of all, 2 prime ministers have signed that Tibet is a part of China. So you first abrogate that treaty. Is anyone ready to do it? I mean, if they do it for Jawaharlal Nehru, they won't do it for Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And if you say anything about Atal Bihari, they'll go. Why did he sign that? So I am saying first you demonstrate to the Chinese that you can't occupy our territory. Once we kick them out, and have the strength to kick them out, then you will start telling the Chinese, listen, you are poking your nose into our country too much, and we will also then start doing something like that. Then you can think in Tibet, Hong Kong, but right now, I mean, you haven't even completed one project and you want another project to be taken? And just by making statements, I mean, this is another Indian bad habit. Just make statements. Statements are not enough. You must back it up. Otherwise, don't make statements.
Okay. Arvindji, go ahead.
Okay. Last question is about Bhutan. You said about Bhutan.
Yes.
There have been a lot of internal problems in Bhutan about the refugees. People from Bhutan have crossed over the Bhutan and went to Nepal, even came to India. And India government did not even admit that we have any Bhutanese refugees. In the meanwhile, the monarchy converted into democracy and all that. But Bhutanese problem still remains the same. India provides everything to Bhutan. In fact, if you look at the happiness index, Bhutan is one of the countries which has the highest happiness, and without doing anything. So even India is doing so much for Bhutan, and yet Bhutan is obliged with China.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, we have done a lot for Sri Lanka, and they were. Yeah, there is something called self-respect. We have done so much for Nepal. They are now saying Uttarakhand is a part of Nepal. Sita and Rama were both born in. Sita, of course, you can claim, but Rama was not born in Nepal. And so, I mean, you have, and Bhutan, you see, we went and fought for them. And then after we withdrew, they made a deal with Chinese. The Chinese wanted to build a road from Tibet along the Sikkim border all the way to Bagdogra. And the Chinese have almost completed it. Doklam has been taken over by the Chinese. So, I mean, you even if you give money, they're not grateful because the way you give money. Look at the way we are treating Sri Lanka. I mean, he came here, Rajapaksa, spoke to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister said, you talk to this guy, Foreign Minister, Jaishankar. I mean, what could be a greater insult to tell a Prime Minister, go and talk to my Foreign Minister? And that Foreign Minister, of course, a bureaucrat, and it's a low priority for him. He'll rather run to Russia or to America, depending on which side the Prime Minister is, leaning. So I think all our countries have only one common complaint when I meet them, and that is that Indian bureaucrats don't treat us as equals. And they say tomorrow, day after, okay, we'll see, we'll consider, and so on. That is, our diplomacy has been structured on the British pattern, British imperialist pattern, and we have not changed. And therefore, Europeans, salam alaikum. I mean, salam alaikum is the wrong thing. I should say good morning.
No, pretty much it'll happen soon, Dr. Swamy.
Salam alaikum.
It happened with UK.
Yeah, UK almost is there.
It'll pretty much happen pretty soon, the way it's going. Okay, Jagdish, you had a question?
Before Arvind goes in for winding up, I have only to say, Dr. Swamy, what happened in Burma, Myanmar? How did the Chinese again started exerting influence?
Listen, the military was always in control. They stepped aside and allowed democracy to function. And it functioned. And you can't say that, on the Rohingyas, that lady Aung San Suu Kyi or whatever her name is, she got a bad name in the West because she said, I stand by the Burmese policy of ejecting Rohingyas. They don't belong here. And even that, she accommodated as much as possible. And so one day the military comes and says, okay, get out. And she's now in jail. And the military has been financed over the years by the Chinese, trained by the Chinese. So the Chinese is just a cakewalk for them.
Okay, Arvind.
Okay, Dr. Swamy, thank you very much. But before we wind up, I have just one small question. In last 1 year, because of the corona, our Prime Minister Modi has not been traveling outside India. And earlier he traveled to 40 odd countries. Do you think Modi not traveling has affected our external relations? So
well, I can tell you when Modi was traveling 18 times to meet Xi Jinping, they were occupying Depsong and other places, the Chushul near Chushul area and so on. So I mean, the Pakistanis were butchering you, butchering our people on the border. Terrorists were coming. I mean, so I mean, a simple thing that FATF, where Pakistan is to be declared as a rogue state, we have not been able to get it through. So I think it's got nothing to do with PM traveling or not traveling. The question is with what clout he goes. If he goes there and they think he's just come for atmospherics, then they give him atmospherics or media laps it up and then forgotten. What have you concluded? You just tell me on this question of Quad. Modi doesn't have to travel. They're coming here. The defense minister, or what they call as defense secretary of defense, he's coming there very soon, and they have called a meeting of Quad, and it will be all online. So whatever he can do online. Maybe he has difficulty getting through to some people, but the fact of the matter is that the days of traveling are over. I mean, there's a substitute for it, and that is online. And they could have done it. So this is the new spin that because he is not traveling, that's why foreign policy is deteriorating. That means all that you did is all evaporated. You have to go on servicing it.
Okay, so on that note, thank you, Dr. Swamy, and thank you, Chandralekha ji, for giving us a real insight on the Tamil Nadu election in the days to come and weeks to come. We have several other assembly elections also. We may also discuss other assembly elections with different experts. Thank you very much for bringing us the main issues facing Tamil Nadu electorate. And thank you, Dr. Swamy, for giving us such a good account of India's limitations and India's competencies in having these relations with the different countries. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, next Saturday, we are going to meet again in Arth Gyan Ganga, Economics, Words of Wisdom. And coming Sunday, again, we'll meet with a different topic, maybe with a different expert. And this is just to say to the viewers that keep on watching our program. Every Saturday, we have one program on 8 o'clock. And Sunday, we have regular words of wisdom, Gyan Ganga. We'll be meeting again. Thanks, Jagdish Shetty. Thanks, Mr. Ramesh Swamy. And our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Swaminathan, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Tejas, and Vishal Mehta. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting again on Saturday in Economics, Words of Wisdom, Arth Gyan Ganga, and thereafter on next Sunday with Words of Wisdom. Thank you very much. Till then, Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.